Welcome to Just Relationships, the show that offers you concrete ways to make your relationships better. Whether it's your boss, your spouse, your children, or your friends, the quality of your relationships in life directly affects how you feel about yourself and the success you achieve. Your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer, a psychotherapist, telecoach, author, and seminar leader, will interview top experts to help you learn to manage this essential part of your life. And now, here's your host, Dr. Duffy Spencer.
Greetings to you. Well, do you have too much stuff? Do you find that you have so many things you can't even figure out where they are? Do you find you spend lots of time looking for your stuff? Would you like to be more organized? Would you like to have a more streamlined life? Would you like to figure out the mystery, the clue to letting go of extra stuff, otherwise known as clutter? Well, if so, stay tuned, because I'm very pleased to introduce my guest to you, Kim Wolinski, who is a social worker and an expert on stress, time, and organizational management, and she is such an expert on decluttering. She has dubbed for herself the name Dr. Declutter. Welcome, Kim.
Hi, thank you, Duffy. Glad to be back again.
Glad to be back. I love to invite you, Kim. You're one of my favorite guests. You're so prolific. You have so many different areas of expertise. And your latest project is you wrote a book called One Rabbit.
Right. It's an actually the ebook is in process, but I have a teleclass.
Yes.
And it's all on my website. People can purchase it there, and it's a teleclass plus handouts.
Yes.
And the full title is One Rabbit, the Step-and-Step Method to Get Unstuck and Live the Life You Want Now. And I know you're going to ask, what does one rabbit mean, right?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah. So, I love National Geographic, and of course, if you watch any animal show where there's predator and prey, you're going to have the wolf or the the fox or something running after the smaller prey, usually a rabbit or something, and you're going to go hungry if you try to run after all the rabbits. Mm-hmm. You have to figure out which one rabbit you can chase, that you can do something with at just one, and then complete the process. Catch it, finish the project, get the to-dos done, get the tasks done, and come to completion about it before you do all the other 8,000 rabbits that are all over the place. And so part of how we procrastinate and get stuck in life is that we get overwhelmed and burned out because we have so many to-dos, so many rabbits on our list that we can't handle it. It's like, okay, what I work with as a priority coach, I have a master's degree in social work, but I do priority coaching and professional speaking, is I work with people to figure out how to focus on that one or two or three to-dos, projects or dreams or goals, and then to help them through just doing those and getting into completion, because it's very likely sometimes that when you finish one, catch that one rabbit and finish that whole project, you may not need to do any of the other ones, or they will have taken care of themselves. They don't matter anymore. So very important to just get clear about what's the priority that I need to work on and just do those.
Beautiful. So you're talking about prioritizing what really is the priority, and to look at what's important rather than what's necessarily urgent, because sometimes so-called urgent things are not very important. And focus. So priority and focus is what I'm hearing so far, Kim.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah. And then the correct action to take care of the steps needed for that task or for that project. Because we can all stand around and say, I'm going to do whatever it is, in parentheses, I'm going to do this project this week, or whatever it is. And it never gets done. And it's 3 years later, and it's still sitting there, half done, not done, or a dream. You want to, from write the book to go on a vacation to do something, whatever it is, or sew something or create something or start a class. And it just never happens because there's no action steps, no plan put into place for a process to do the project. So, we can certainly have our dreams, but dreams don't come true. Plans come true. It's like we can be Walt Disney all we want, but that's good for him. Good for him.
Wow.
But it's like dreams come true. Well, only if you have a really good plan and you take the action steps on the plan. That's how it has to happen.
Beautiful. So can you give us, the 7 steps and some success stories? I know you've worked with clients so successfully.
Well, the 7 steps are, really, they're steps around stopping self-sabotage and resistance to completions and procrastination and burnout. So we really have to kind of look at that whole picture of why would I even do these things? Well, if you have, these are the things I want to do, I wish I would start them, I've tried, and it could, for some people, it could be better health, a diet, lose weight, gain strength, stuff like that, anything, then we're just looking at, all those reasons around, really, I would say there's 3 kinds of clutter. As Dr. Declutter, I would say there's 3 kinds of clutter. There's inner, outer, and other. And the inner is in our head, which stops us from doing everything. Outer is the physical stuff, and other is people. And sometimes we need to declutter people in order to quit being pulled and jerked around into their world and their needs and their stuff, and to really get clear about our own things. So
let me just repeat that, Kim Walensky, because it's just so clear. Inner clutter, what's in our head, all of those toxic thoughts and beliefs and what we would call emotional baggage, old tapes, and outer clutter, what we would think of as things, too much stuff, and other clutter, which is the toxic people in our lives, or toxic relationships. We can sometimes shift a relationship with the same person. So, yes, so that's beautiful. And how people get pulled and tugged into toxic behaviors, and we can call that codependency, that sort of thing.
Yeah, there's lots of all of those puzzle pieces of that same genre of issues of it causes us more stress, and again, kind of looking at what are the toxins in our life, and they can certainly be the environment and the air and the food and the whatever, but in water or something that's in stuff, but it's certainly the relationships that we have, and if we have too many of those relationships, we can only rise up to the level that they are. So whoever we're around the most, we get stuck in everybody else's ceiling, their belief ceiling and their fear ceiling. So wherever they get stuck, we're getting stuck with them because we're having the same conversation. So that's very toxic to us, and needing to, break free of that, which means being able to gain the strength and gain whatever it takes, sometimes just walk away from some relationships and just let them go. And I realize if it's your family, it's very hard.
Yeah.
Because it's your family and you're stuck with them until everybody's dead, That's really and I always say, if your family wasn't your family, would they be your friends? I always have to shake my head. It's like, yeah, mine would not. So I would say, I don't even know who these people are. How did I get in this family? And I know there's a lot of people like that, and it's like, I know, how did I get in this family? I'm totally different from all of them. But you're in it, and so you're kind of stuck with they're crazy too.
Yeah.
Sometimes, So, and that really is of the 7. We're talking about the 7 steps, or the 7-step method to get unstuck and live the life you want under the one rabbit. That is the first step, is inner clutter, looking at our fears, looking at our belief ceilings, where we get stuck, and how we sabotage ourselves. And it's sort of like if you look on the line of way to one direction is fear, way to the other direction is peace and joy, and isn't that what we want? And if that's what we want, then on a daily basis, we have to look at what are the things that I can do to have more peace and joy in my life. And we know then how wrapped up we are in old beliefs and codependency, or whatever we want to call it, patterns, basically just mental patterns and habits, when then we feel guilty if we're too peaceful and too joyful and too happy, because everybody else around us isn't, especially if it's family. It's like, then I've got to get back in the bucket with them. I've got to get back to their level because I'm getting away, and now they're all going to say, well, it must be nice. Who do you think you are? And now you're stuck again, And when we're stuck, we're not moving. And so it's all about movement. Otherwise, we procrastinate because we're stuck. And it's all about, again, just moving around in that fear. So the first step, the first stage is looking at our inner clutter and moving that out so that we can be more productive, more free to think and feel and act on our dreams, on what we want, and then create those plans to do something.
So, easier said than done, right, Kim? The idea of getting that inner clutter out of our heads. Do you have any thoughts about how you actually do that?
Well, certainly one way to do that is to write out, get out a paper and pencil, get out a notebook, whatever it takes, and just, sit down, shut everything else out, shut off the phone, shut off the computer, get away from everything, and just figure out what is it that I want. Mm-hmm. And that's the hardest thing for a lot of people to know. Women especially, very hard, because we're very socialized as women to take care of everybody else first, not to feel all our emotions, even though we may be crying all the time. We're not feeling our emotions to the level of what we need to sometimes, and the honest truth about them, and certainly saying what we need to say. We just shut up and walk away again and go bury it someplace else or talk to our friends about it, but keep getting back in that old stuff. And so it's, really writing out, what are the projects I want to complete? What is it that I really want? What would help me feel more peaceful, more joyful, happier, more relaxed in my life?
So it's I'm sorry to interrupt, it's how do I want to feel as well?
Yes, absolutely. Because if we get into our heads too far, we're just like doing it kind of in an airy fashion, just like we're stuck in our heads about it. And sooner or later, the emotions are going to show up in a different way. They're going to show up in illness or a disease or pain or something. They're going to show up because our body will show emotions up. Well, it is all the time.
Right.
And they wonder what's wrong with us again. It's like, well, you're not talking about something. What do you need? What's going on? And so certainly just sitting down and really, taking a half an hour at a time, and even if you feel like there's nothing to write, the page is blank for the first 10 minutes, it doesn't matter. Stick with it. Mm-hmm. Because if you're a person who hasn't done that for yourself ever before, or very seldom and very sporadically, your brain pattern is in no place to do that. It's not used to doing that for yourself. So you've got to reprogram your brain to help it remember that there is a pattern that's better than the pattern it's in, which is just sort of like a pendulum going back and forth and getting nowhere. It's not going forward because it's just going back and forth. So being able to write, and just start jotting stuff down. It's like, what did I used to want? What would be the biggest dream, no matter how crazy it sounds? Just write it down. And then all of a sudden there's a momentum that starts where it's like, oh, well, I see. It isn't really that, but it's this part. Maybe it's not, I want to be a singer on America's Got Talent, but maybe I really always just wanted to do karaoke. Who knows? But but if we don't sometimes say it so large, we don't even get the little parts of it.
Right. Say it large. Go large.
Yeah.
So you're saying something else, Kim, which is asking yourself smart questions. Mm-hmm. What do I want? How do I want to feel? What did I used to want? Right. And just keep that pen poised at blank paper. And just start. You know, I talk to my students and clients about free writing and just to write and not even worry